My name is Paul Trani. I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to talk about the Creative Cloud CS6, a whole workflow scenario you can do. So I did want to show you this hashtag. By all means, this is how your voice can be heard. We're going to pick up on this, this hashtag through Twitter. So tell us what you like, what you don't like. I've already been posting some pictures. I got pictures of a lot of people's, like the back of your heads. So already posted out there. I think somebody back over here kind of has it sticking up a little bit, I noticed. You'll see in the picture. Nonetheless, you guys know what you can do with these devices. I think it's really exciting, from tablets to mobile devices. And that's what I want to get into especially. Because let's face it, this world is changing. I'm going to kick it off, like I mentioned. We're also going to cover some creative as well. So Peter and Tone are going to come up, and then we're also going to get into video. Then we'll take a break, and we'll come back and dive into some more details around these things. But everything you see today is all about CS6. Again, pretty exciting. It's going to encompass the whole suite, all of those popular programs you might be using, and even some that you might not be using that I get the opportunity to introduce you to. Again, it's going to be definitely really nice, starting with the interactive media tools, some creative tools, and then video. Okay, and that's the cool thing about the Creative Cloud, is the Creative Cloud, something you're going to hear more about, you could become a member too. And that gives you access to all of these CS6 applications. So if you're doing graphic design, you can get into web design. If you're doing video, you can get into, say, doing print. So nothing is off limits, and that's what I like about it. Because, actually a show of hands, let's see, graphic designers, if you just call yourself a graphic designer, just by a show of hands, that's probably half the room. Web design, again, this is our informal poll. I guess you got to raise your right hand for that, is what I'm doing. About a third of you. And then video. Who's doing some video, digital video as well? Okay, cool. So we got quite a few people in this audience. And if I asked you, who does more than one thing? Who could have raised their hand a couple times? Wow, that's impressive, and that's why this is important. Let me download what I want. If I need After Effects, download it, get started just like that. All right, and the cool thing about it, beyond it just being CS6, is we could push out updates to, say, Photoshop, for instance. You know how we'll sneak a feature? Like, oh, here's content-aware fill, check it out. Oh, but you can't have it yet. You got to wait till it ships. Well, think about us showing you a feature and then you having immediate access to it. And that's the power of the Creative Cloud, giving you the ability to jump right in there and take advantage of those applications. Beyond that, we have sync, storing, and sharing, which I'm going to get into. On your tablet, everything is going to be synced up. The drawings that were done earlier were actually automatically being synced to Tone's machine, so you'll see that in a second. Definitely pretty cool. And then we also have the ability to publish anywhere as well. So I know half the room raised their hand when I asked if you're a graphic designer. You're thinking, how do I publish? It's pretty straightforward, and I'm glad I get to introduce you to it. So let me step back here and get rid of these slides, huh? Let's see some things in action, shall we? All right. So let me just hide this and get right into it. All right, so here's Creative Cloud. I can go to creativecloud.com. As soon as I sign in, you can see all of the apps and services that I have access to. So I can download what I want from this entire screen. Okay, so I have access to new things as well, not only Photoshop, but oh, that one thing, Edge, I think I've heard about it. Well, you have access to that, enabling you to create animation and interactivity using web standards. So you could download what you want as a Creative Cloud member. You also have services that you could dive into, the ability to sync files, I'll show you that, as well as some publishing and font services as well. And lastly, we have the touch apps right down here, giving you the ability to integrate with your files and sync up your files as well. And I will be doing that. All right, but let's take a look at this. I'm going to start in services. In fact, if I go to the Files page right here, notice how I have a couple of my files available. So what I can do, say for instance, from my desktop, is I can take any files I want, and I can drag them into the browser and upload them. Okay, I can do this today. Look, it's uploading that typography Illustrator file. Not only does it upload it, but if we take a look at that file, you can see this is my Illustrator file that I actually get a preview of in the browser. Okay, so I can actually see those contents. I don't have to worry about saving it as a JPEG, PNG file, any of that. Let's take some other files. Let's take a PSD, maybe a color swatch file. Let's grab a couple of these and drag them over. Because when I drag all those over, I can upload those and make those available. So drag them over, and it will upload all of those files. Also notice you have the ability to add additional folders, like I'm doing here, and to structure your content accordingly. In fact, if we take a look in this magazine folder, what do I have in here? I happen to have, look, this happens to be an InDesign file. So I'll select it. All I did is drag that file over into my Files panel in my browser, and you can see it renders that page. Again, this is an InDesign file. I didn't have to export it out, all those pages as, whether they're JPEGs or various PDF files. But clicking through, it actually renders all of those pages as well. So clicking through, I can see all of that content. I can get more details on it off to the side. Again, we own all these file formats. We could render them however we want. Let's take a look at some of our files that are uploading. We can see everything here. Looks good. Let's take this PSD file. Again, it's rendering that out. I don't have to worry about saving out a JPEG. I can see what that looks like. Oh, let's go beyond just viewing it. Because look, over here off to the side, I have the ability to toggle on and off layers. So I can turn off, say, the submenu layer right here, and it will turn that off. Again, rendering what we want and showing it right away. So that's cool. It's like, oh, I can see it in the browser. That's great. The whole idea is you could send it to somebody else and allow them to comment on it. So I can send this out and say, here's the website, adding a comment to it. There it is. In fact, at this point, I can make this public and send it to somebody in particular. Sending it to someone, allowing them to comment on it, as well as download it. So again, I'm able to share it just like that. They would then get it and see it in this same view, and whether they're on a desktop or a tablet, it'll actually render out accordingly. So they can see this on a tablet device, even to a mobile device. They can see that same image. They can comment, and you'd get that feedback right away. And again, this could be any number of images. You can structure this the way you want to structure it. You know, whether they're JPEGs or a series of images, you can see, and this is the last thing I'll show in the browser, but here you have files that have it's basically a kiss-up frame, as I like to call it. Is that all right? But again, a series of JPEGs that I'm rendering out just like that. All right, so that's Creative Cloud. Everything's synced up. I have access to them, not only on the desktop, but also on my mobile device. So I might have something like Photoshop Touch. If I take a look at my tablet device, we'll just switch over really fast. You'll see Photoshop Touch come into play here any second. All right, there we are. Cool. Okay, so Photoshop Touch. This could be any one of the Adobe Adobe programs. From here, I can create a new file if I want to, or maybe start from a current file. And again, these are all accessible as part of my Creative Cloud files. So I'm going to jump in here with this file, for instance. You can see I actually have a document and it already has a number of layers in place. I can turn those on and off, because those are layers. I recognize that. That makes sense. And in case we're curious, if I just double tap on that, I get this view, and it gives me that sort of that 3D look to those layers, which is pretty awesome. You start to notice, oh, there's someone behind her. All right, let's take a look. Turn that off. You can see there she is. But from here, I can, say, as the art director, start to mock up something. I could be on location. I'm like, I need this photo shoot. I've taken a picture of this area. I like it. You know, I can add more images if I want to from the Creative Cloud, from my camera, from Facebook. I can add pretty much anything I want to start to create any sort of composition. And as you can see, what's being rendered now are those same files that are on my desktop. So there they are. That's what I've done, is added her in. In fact, I could just jump in here and just do this quickly. I can use the scribble selection tool because I want to keep her but knock out the background. So I can select her quickly, just like that, selecting what I want to keep, and selecting remove, and in red is what will be removed. I can select that area just like that. So it's going to knock out that background. Gives me that selection. I can start to refine it some more and get as detailed as I want. Okay, so that's not bad. Let's come in here a little bit more. And in fact, all I'm going to do at this point, notice how I can actually refine the edge if I want to by selecting Refine Edge and start to control that edge and what appears accordingly. So it does a good job. Just with a couple strokes, it tightens all of that up even more. In fact, last thing I'll need to do is extract her from the background, and now she's ready to go. I can position her back in place like that. Okay, I didn't have to go to my desktop. That's done on my tablet. I have a good vision for what I want for this photo shoot. I can just save this file. As I click back, it's syncing that file, and you'll see a blue bar appear in a second, but it's syncing it to the Adobe Creative Cloud right now. All right, so that's going to be available on my desktop. You see that blue line? It's syncing now, and I'll, in fact, jump back to my desktop really fast. All right, there we go. Cool. All right, syncs back to the Creative Cloud. I was working in that pluralist folder. If I take a look, there it is, my comp PSD file right here. In fact, I can download it if I want to as well and make it available. So I can download that file and start to work on it in Photoshop. Know that this is something new that I kind of just want to point out. That's going to be really exciting. The ability to sync an entire folder will be available soon as well. So similar to, I'm not going to lie to you, similar to Dropbox, you'll be able to sync an entire folder. So you just save things to this folder that's called Creative Cloud Files, and it will be immediately available. So that's coming very soon. Video is something that we're working on, and we want this feedback. So if you just use that hashtag, that's what I want to see, because we're going to take all those sort of requests and return it to headquarters so they know. All right, so from that file, I can end up with sort of the final version. Ultimately, it was for a photo shoot, so you can end up with something like this, and that looks pretty good. I like that shot. In fact, from there, I can crop it down and make it the right size for this website that I'm working on. So I'm just going to export this out to my desktop, call it Fashion 2, and make that available. Okay, so I'm using the new crop tool. I know that's going to be shown later. But there's some other things I can do in Photoshop. Since I'm in here, I do have to point out just a couple things. First, obviously, you notice the darker UI. We can talk about that some more. But again, I like that I have this darker UI allowing me to focus on this image. And I can also change that UI as well. So I can make it lighter or even darker if I want. Now, as part of this photo shoot, it happens to be for this woman, her business. She actually does a lot of fashion. And for this image, I'm going to show you another feature I can use. In Photoshop, instead of applying a blur, say, to part of an image using various masks and different things, what I can do is if I want to focus on just her, I can use something like the iris blur. Part of the blur gallery, I can use the iris blur just to focus on her. Look what it does. It gives me all of these controls directly on the image. So look, I can position that accordingly like that. I can make it even more blurry just by dragging this on-image editing, allowing me to focus on the content just like the interface does and not worry about working in a panel off to the side, even though I can do that as well. So that's the iris blur. It does that transitional blur from sharp to even more blurry. And since she does fashion, I don't want to blur out all of her items in the background. I might want to add another iris blur right there. And now I have two iris blurs allowing me to focus on what I want. Easy to do. I mean, you guys working in Photoshop, if you tried to do something like this, that transitional gradated blur from something 0 blur to like 7 blur, I don't even know how you do it. I'm not going to lie to you. How would you do that? Here, with the blur gallery, you can do it quite easily. And in fact, I'll select OK. Let's move on. Let me show you one more. Being able to use the blur gallery, I'm going to do this tilt-shift blur. It's kind of a popular technique. It makes everything look kind of miniature, and I think it's kind of fun. Tilt-shift blur gives me the ability to adjust this accordingly, and you have basically sharp, 2 more gradated, and you can adjust it the same way. But look at how it starts to miniaturize that one simple scene. And again, I'm adjusting it further. I just hid those lines. And now we have something that would have taken a really expensive lens to do, let's face it. From there, I've taken an ordinary image, made it look a lot cooler, and I can implement it. All right, I have just a couple minutes left, and I do want to move on. Because part of the Creative Cloud, I can, of course, use Photoshop and these various tools, but you have access to new ones as well. And I want to point out Muse. Because I worked on this image. I want this image to be part of a website. But you're thinking, I don't know how to program. And Dreamweaver, I haven't had success with. Well, I can use Muse to allow me to create websites without writing any code. So for designers in the audience, this is your tool. You could download it, just like I've done. You launch it, and the same team that made InDesign made Muse. It's a piece of cake to use. Has the whole idea of having master pages, just like you do in InDesign. In fact, look, here's my home page, and here's my master page down here. So if I open up this master page and just drop on an element, there it is. That element will actually appear on every single page. And I can draw various elements in here as well. So I can start to make my layout, something like that. That's not only on my home page, but if I add a page, it's on that additional page. So I can have an about page. Oh, let's add another one. Contact. OK, cool. 3 pages. They all have that same design. Pretty straightforward. I can add specific content to this home page as well. So coming in here, I can add what I need to. Welcome. Again, keeping this simple is all I'm doing. 3 pages. Oh, we need to link them together. Let's jump into my master page. Like, oh, I think I gotta do links, and I gotta do an LI, and I gotta write some code or do something. No, I don't think so. What you can do is use this widget library. So from here, I can add a menu. So that's all I'm doing. I'm going to add this menu bar, dragging that out, putting it up at the top. Oh, wait, you're blowing my mind here. Look at that. What? What just happened? It actually added those 3 pages as well immediately to the navigation. I haven't had to touch a thing. In fact, if I click Preview, I can not only see My buttons are named appropriately, but they actually navigate to those pages as well. Pretty cool? Is that easy? It's pretty easy, right? You're like, scary easy. You're like, I'm a little, that was almost, you're like, no, it can't be that easy. What about publishing? How are you going to upload that site? Don't I need the DNS and the blah, 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 and hosting and all this stuff? No. In fact, that's like our second biggest call that we get concerning Dreamweaver. How do I upload my site? Well, with Muse, even with Dreamweaver, we basically have one-click publishing. So I clicked Publish, and it will upload to Business Catalyst, which I have 5 sites available to me as a Creative Cloud member. I can upload that as well. Sorry, this is moving kind of slow, and I'm running out of time, so let me just switch to the final site. In fact, here it is. Here's the final site that I was working on. Let me jump back and open up that one. Here's a final site done in Muse. Not only that, if I go into my gallery, for instance, remember I wanted that image that I started on the tablet to be part of this web page? Well, I can make it part of this Lightbox gallery, which I've added as one of my slideshows, right down here. Oh, that's where it goes. Okay. As part of my gallery, I can add images. So I can add that Fashion 2 image, drop it right in there. Okay, that's cool. It just added it right away. Oh, let's reshuffle it. Let's make it the second image. And now it's the second image available. Let's preview this. You can see my gallery right here. It'll automatically advance, or I can click on that image. Again, adding this lightbox. You can see what you can do even with your portfolio, being able to create something. Again, from there, you can click Publish, Upload. You'd get this site. What you see here, you'd see it live. As well as additional components. Not that I have time to cover this. It looks like I'm out of time, but I can't help but talk about one more thing, which is fonts. Let's talk about one last thing. Fonts. Oh, it's scary. On the web, what do I have for options for fonts? A whole lot of nothing, really, right? I mean, look at this. Help me. I can't do it. What, Courier? I don't know about some of this stuff. You know, Comic Sans, Comic Sans is in there. Oh, geez, help us. All right. So what I'd want to do as a designer is add my own fonts. So I can add web fonts. This is when I said Typekit. This is what Typekit is. So I have access to all of these fonts, and I can sort them. I need to because there's so many, but I can start to sort these, pick the font I want, maybe this Aclonia. I'm not even sure how to say that. But I can pick a font, maybe that you can't pronounce the name of, and add it immediately. In fact, that Alconica, whatever, font is available right in my list. Selecting that, and, welcome designers to the web where you can actually have control over your fonts. Searchable, copy, paste it, whatever you want to do. I'm out of time, and there's probably some things that I missed, but I'm up later as well, so I'm going to get more into interactive. But I'm going to invite Tone to come up. Great guy is going to take you through some Illustrator work that we can do as well. So,
thank you, Paul.